Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video we are going to discuss some HTML related questions that are usually asked in interviews. I've created this, like I've coded this, and you can see all of these questions. We are going to see their answers as well, and also we are going to see how exactly I've created this sort of layout for our web page. So it will be a very practical knowledge for you, as well as you will learn how to answer a particular question in an interview. And along that side, you will also learn how to actually practically code it. So without wasting any further time, let's move ahead to our video. Okay, so our first question is, what are attributes and how do you use them? So basically, what are your attributes in your HTML tags? Um, So as you can see, this is an image. And if I go back to my source code, this is the code for that entire web page that you're seeing on the Chrome. So I'll just do this thing so that you can focus on a particular tag. So you can see here, this is our image. An image has an attribute called source. So let's say, for example, you have a paragraph tag that you can see at line number 7. So if you pass anything here, let's say you pass an ID to this paragraph and you name it para. So this ID is the attribute for this tag. Okay. And similarly, anything which you are passing in opening brackets for tags. So opening brackets, these are the opening brackets. Anything that you are passing aside from the tag name will be attribute for that tag. So per se, you have source for image. You can also pass this width. Let's say I keep it 200. You can also pass height. Let's say 200. So all these width, height, you can also pass an alt. That's also an attribute. Alt refers to the alternative name that you want to give that to image. You can say this is any random image, and you can see that right here. When you will do this, you can see this. So this is any random image actually, and it has some width and it has some height as well. So this is what we mean by attributes, and usually you are being asked a lot about, especially for the beginners, you'll be expected to know the difference between attributes and elements and tags, which specific things are tags and not tags. All of that stuff you should be familiar with if you're going as a beginner. That's it for our first question. Let's move on to the next one. What is the difference between block level element and inline element? I would say this is a very important question, and it should be crystal clear to you what exactly are block level elements and inline elements. So let's move here. So you can see I am a block level element and I am an inline element. So before moving ahead and describing this, we'll go to the code first of all. This is this section. So it has this div, which is a block level element, and I've also given it a span. Let me just do this for you so that it's clear for you to understand. Div class, I am a block level element and I am an inline element. So basically, a block level element will take as much width as it can on a web page. But for inline element, it will take only the space, only that much of width, which is equal to the content, which is equal to the width of that particular content. So let me explain it. So span is an inline element. So I am an inline element. This is the width of this element, and it will take only this width on the web page as well. Whereas for the block level element, I am a block level element, but if you can see, it is taking the entire width on that page. Like as much width as it can grab, it will try to fix that width for itself. No matter if the content is big enough or not, that doesn't matter for a block level element. Block level element will always take as much width as it can from a web page. Whereas span or you can say inline element, will only take width which is equal to the content of that element, which in this case was I am an inline element. So what I did exactly is, so these two classes I have provided here, and if you see the styles for this, you can see for block level element and for inline element, I have provided a border. So the border is actually telling us how much width each of these elements are containing, right? Because width border will be around the entire element on the web page. So the entire element, you can say, this is the entire element, and hence the border is like this for block level element and like this for inline element. I hope that's clear. Some of the examples of block level elements and inline elements. Block level element is div, as you can see here, and span is our inline element. Apart from that, your sections, address, your paragraph, all heading tags, all of these are block level elements. So if you want me to give you an example, if I pass h1 here and I also give it a class of, let's say, block level element. So block level element isn't doing anything. It is just it's just providing a border actually. So this is the heading one rather. So if we go back here and if we check here, you can say this is the heading one and it's taking the as much width as it can on the screen, right? Apart from that, we have some other span elements. Sorry, we have some other inline elements. For example, a text area, input field. So if you provide text area here, and also let's provide it a class so that the borders are applied. And if we check here, so if you can see this border, blue border, it is just around the content, and the content right here is the text area, like the width of the text area. So the border will only be around the width of that text area. That indicates that this is also a inline element which is only taking the width which is required and not the otherwise. So this question can also be asked in a way, tell me the difference between div and span, because div and span we use very frequently. So I guess this question is usually asked as well in this pattern, difference between div and span. I hope that's clear. If it is, then let's move to the next one. How to create a hyperlink in HTML. So let's say you want to move to some other page, or if you want to redirect to some other page, how would you do that in HTML? You will use this. Please redirect me to Pinterest. We will see this code here. Right here. So we'll have an anchor tag for that. It has an href attribute. Href attribute is the link that you'll be using where you want to redirect your user. So for my case, I want to redirect my user to pinterest.com. So I've just applied that href here. If I click this, it will be redirected to my Pinterest. So I hope that's clear. Uh, for this hyperlink, there is a follow-up, and that's an exercise for you because without practice, you can't achieve anything. Even if I tell you all these questions, if you cram that, there's no purpose of it. You have to practice it by yourself. And that's the reason I will push all my code on a GitHub, and I will link the GitHub repository link in the description box below. So do check them out. Do play with all these questions and how can these be tilted according to you as well. So you need to check that. So this is an exercise for you. Can you use hyperlinks on text as well? So now we are just using, like we are using hyperlink like an anchor tag, and we are providing href to it. But can you use that on text as well? Like for example, if I want to make this hyperlinks word a link, how could you do that? If you can do that, and if yes, then how? And if you have any problem, like you can comment down below and let me know also. And also let me know if you actually got the answer for this one. I think that's about the hyperlinks. Let's move on to the next one. That's what are semantic elements, and name some semantic elements. So basically, semantic elements are which provide a semantic to your HTML. I know that's very vague term to explain, but let's discuss it in details. So basically, when you write div or span or something like that, whatever you're writing in that content, neither the browser can understand what type of content it is going to be, nor the developer who will be working on your code when you will be working professionally, nor that developer will be able to understand what kind of code can go in there. So there are some semantic elements that you can use which actually provide a meaning to the content that you're writing in your HTML. For example, you're writing address. So just wrap it around address element, address tag. We have address tag in HTML. So do it like that. We have time as well. We have header, main, footer. Like let's say there's a layout where you need to provide a heading to your page. You'll keep it in header. You need to provide some a contact links, so you can provide it in footer, and then everything else you can provide in your main tab. So that's header, main, and footer. Apart from that, we have a side and nav. So a side is for creating a sidebar, and nav is for creating any links that you have that you want your user to redirect to. So keep them in nav. Then you have section, you have articles, you have summary, details, you have strong emphasis to make your text bold, look bold. You have figure and figure caption, all of these stuffs. So we cannot actually discuss all of these in detail right now because that's not in the scope of this video. But if you want me to cover all of these in details, because these are very interesting elements, how you can actually use them and what are the sort of elements that you can use, how you can practically embed them in your HTML. If you want me to cover that, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a separate video on that. For now, I think that's it for this semantic elements. How to create a nested web page in HTML. So we'll use iframe for that. So basically, let's see the code for this. This one is for, okay. So create a nested web page. We'll use like this. Iframe, you'll provide one source to it, and the source will be the nested web page that you want to embed. So currently we have cross browser issues for our server. That's why it's not able to pull it up. But if you just run it locally on your computer, it'll catch that up, and it'll show you the Google website right here. It has some width, and you can provide it some height. So you can use iframe if you want to nest some web pages inside your web page, basically. There isn't much we can discuss here. Like these are the sort of questions that are asked, and you should know how to tackle these sort of questions in your interviews. The next one is, what is an image map? Like this is very interesting. So we have an image right here. Image map actually creates some clickable areas on an image. What does that mean? So basically, if you can see how this arrow changes to this pointer right here, if you can see it clearly, there's this arrow here. It is not clickable. If you click it, nothing will happen. I'm trying to click it, but nothing is happening. But if you go here, this is a pointer, a clickable pointer, and when you will click it, you will be redirected to Google. So how did we do that? Let's check that. Yeah. So here we have a class, and yeah. So I have this image, and I provided a map to this image. I've provided a use map. So use map is a reserved attribute that you can use on image tag, and you can provide it work map, like any name that you want with a hashtag in front of it. So that's the name of your map. And after that, you can use the map tag. map name equals work map. So whatever name you have provided here, just provide that here. And here you can provide some areas, like areas with some particular coordinates. I've provided 34, 44, 270, 350, like north and south coordinates. And when you'll click on it, you'll be redirected to Google. I've added another area as well with these coordinates. And when you will click on it, you will go to Pinterest.com. So let's move on to the next one. What are some tags that are used to separate the sections? So let's say you want to write some content and you want to break that in separate sections. But you don't want to use like something like a CSS for that. You want to do it in pure HTML. So what are kind of tags that you can use for that? Uh, First is break tag, other one is paragraph tag, another one is block code. So let's see it because I have actually applied it in code so that you can clearly see it. So yeah, so here you can see break and this break tag. So if you remove this break tag from here, you can see the break and P will be aligned to each other. There'll be no break in between, right? So break tag is breaking the section. Particularly for paragraph, then we have p tag, that's paragraph tag. If you remove it, you should see paragraph and block got together. So you can see it like this. So paragraph is also used to separate the sections. And then you have block got. So if you sort of remove this and if you write something else, so they should be together because there is nothing which is separating them. But if you provide block quote here, it should be on the next line. So something else should be on the next line. So that's, you can use break tag, you can use paragraph tag, and you can use block quote for separating your sections. I hope that's clear. The next one is, what is the purpose of Doctype HTML? Is this an actual HTML tag? So Doctype HTML is what we use at the very beginning of the HTML. So particularly, it's not an HTML tag. You cannot consider it an HTML tag. It is rather actually considered as an instruction to the browser that which kind of HTML we'll be using currently. So we have like HTML 4.01 transitional, we have 4.01 frame set, we have 4.0, we have HTML5. So which HTML are we currently writing down here? You can see it right here. So this is how you can write doctype HTML public, and you have to define what HTML are you using. So for basically for your HTML5, it's very simple. You just have to provide doctype HTML, and it refers that whatever you're writing is the HTML5. So it's not a tag, actually. It is for the instruction purposes. And let's move on to the next one. What are the HTML entities? So as you can see, we use these opening brackets, angular, closing brackets, and we use some reserved uh, keywords for HTML. If you directly want to print something like this in the HTML, you won't be able to do that. Why? Because it's a reserved for HTML. So that's the reason you have HTML entities which are equivalent to these sort of reserved keywords. So basically, if you want to print this opening bracket and closing brackets, then you have ampersandile GT for closing bracket, ampersandile LT for opening brackets. Then you have ampersandile NBSP, that's for non-breaking space, like an empty space. Then you have ampersandile, that's for this. Then you have quote, ampersandile quote, which is for double quotation marks. You have ampersandile apose, which is for single quotation mark. And likewise, you have for copyright, you have for registration, and you have for sentence. So use the HTML entities if you want to print them as it is on your web page. Because if you want, then it will mix up with the reserved keyword that we already have in our HTML. I hope that's clear. Let's move to next one. What are the advantages of collapsing white spaces? So basically, if you see right here, if you even if you provide any number of spaces right here, it won't add the spaces on your web page. The web page will contain, no matter what you are writing in your code, actually, it will never add those much of white spaces. It will always collapse those white spaces. So why does that happen and how does it help? So it helps for the readability of your code. For example, if let's say if all of these spaces are considered as actual spaces on your web page, then probably that's an issue for you. You won't be able to write this particular thing in the next line. You have to use it right here. You have to write everything next to each other and exactly how do you want to show things. So it makes your code looks very bad, very congested, and none of the developers will be able to understand your code. So that's why like it really helps in the readability of code to maintain the quality of code and to write the clean code. Let's move on to the next one, which is the last one for today. Key differences between local storage and session storage objects. First of all, we have to look them in details. Probably when we go to some, I think I'll be making video on JavaScript basic questions, and I'll be covering that in that video. Actually, like the practical coverage will be in that video, but theoretically we can actually understand it in this video because this is a very important question, usually asked, very important. Local storage, it has no expiry date. So once any data is stored in local storage, it has no expiry date until and unless you manually delete it from local storage. It will always be there. But for the session storage, the data will be stored per session. So once you close your browser, once you close your tab, the data will be lost. And then you have to re-enter the data. The second one is data will not be deleted when browser window closes. So even if you close this window, if you have something set to your local storage, the data will be retained there until you manually delete it. But for session storage, data will be lost once your browser window closes. The next one is for local storage, the data is accessible on multiple windows on the browser. But for the session storage, it is for the current window of the browser. So local storage is accessible around your this window, multiple windows, multiple tabs, wherever you want to access it, you can access that data. But for the session storage, it cannot go to like any other window of the browser. It has to be on the same window where you are accessing it. So if you the example of it, like if you go to incognito mode using separate window, then the data that you have entered in your normal window, you'll not be able to access it there. I hope that's clear. And that's it for today's video. I hope these questions are making sense to you now. Please go through these questions whenever you are preparing for your interviews because they are often asked in interviews. And if you like these videos, do like them, hit the subscribe button so you can see these videos on time. That's it. I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye.